Hello, my legendary friends. This is Legends and Losers, the show for people who want to create, design, and dominate in their lives, their business, and the world. Hosted by three-time former CMO, category designer, and co-author of Play Bigger, Christopher Lochhead, with Colin Vincent, master photographer, and co-founder of Equity Directory. And now, strap yourselves in. It's time for Legends and Losers.
Hey ho, let's go. Thank you for joining us today on Legends and Losers. How are you, Colin?
Excellent, Chris. Great to see you today, buddy. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Number 1, episode 1.
Can you believe it?
After a lot of lollygagging and time wasting and failure to commit.
Hemming and hawing and
hemming and hawing and a lot of hawing and hee-hawing.
That's one of our favorite words. My favorite words that we invented.
Hee-haw, yeah.
Hee-haw. Yeah, everyone knows what it means, right?
Well, why don't you tell them for sure? Use it in context, maybe. Put it in a sentence for people.
Yeah. So in relation to this podcast, boy, there sure was a lot of technical hee-haw getting this shit set up.
Wow, fucking A, Logitech fucking webcam hee-haw.
Yeah. We did have some hee-haw.
Now you know what hee-haw means. And we have a friend who hopefully will be a fairly regular guest of the show, Ben Larry Kotke, who is the wannabe creator of the hahometer. So imagine maybe an iPhone app.
How much hee-haw?
Yeah, so you're standing in line at the airport and you're just like, this is a 7 on the hahometer here right now. It's trending. It's trending to 10.
Oh, man, that's good.
So the show's called Legends and Losers, and we think that's a cool name, don't we?
Of course we do. We went through a lot of names.
Yeah, we did. Like all you marketers out there, you know, and as I'll speak for myself, as a marketing guy, former CMO, hard to do surgery on yourself. So coming up with a name really a challenging thing to do. We want to thank our friend Treasure Garb. Trevor is a treasure. Say that 15 times. And I'm just drinking water. I haven't smoked anything funny yet. But we want to thank Trevor. He was a huge help. And of course, Flip Collier, who actually is the guy who named the show. He's a legendary marketing guy in Boston. Hey, Flip, we love you.
Thanks, Flip. Nice name. We love it. Thanks so much.
And we'll have you on the show soon, but he was the guy that nailed it. So Legends and Losers it is. And we're going to try and have a theme for each show, right? So what's our theme for today?
So today's theme is getting in the game.
Yes, if you want to be a legend, or frankly, if you want to be a loser, you can't be on the couch. And sometimes just getting in the game can make a big difference. And sometimes getting in the game, as we talked about right off the top, a year plus or more of hee-haw with us getting this podcast off the ground, mostly because of my indecision. Just getting in the game can be a big win. And let's talk a little bit. Why don't people get in the game?
Well, I think fear prevents most people from getting in the game, Chris.
Yeah, and we all experience that. I don't know about you. I have fear that this podcast will be a big loser and we'll suck and we'll look really stupid. Hopefully, if we do it, then we'll suck in front of millions of people.
There's got to be at least 3 people that want to hear what we have to say.
Yeah, well, there's my mom, my dad,
my mom, my dad.
Hey, we got 4. Yeah, we got 4. We got 4 subscribers. My mom, my dad.
Actually, we have a little more than that. So why don't you share the excitement?
Oh, yeah, it was really cool. A huge motivation in sort of, at least for me. You know, Colin was always committed and wanting to do this podcast, and I was dragging my feet. And so we got some advice from a buddy of ours who's a legendary podcaster. Hey, Matty A., how are you?
Hi, Matty.
And he inspired and pushed and supported and coached us. And so one of the things he suggested was, hey, put up a note on Facebook and get people's feedback. Just your friend, your friends on Facebook. And so I did that. I don't know, I guess a couple weeks ago now, and I was just fucking blown away by the response.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, like nothing else I'd ever posted on social media before. Just a number of people who said, "Yeah, you should go for it," and had great name ideas and great topic ideas, and And so it felt like a message from the universe.
It was.
Social universe. So that kind of pushed us over. But, when you think about doing anything, there's always trepidation. Am I going to look stupid? Am I going to fail? Am I going to lose money?
Yeah.
Am I going to get snot on my nose? Are my pants going to fall down? You have that.
Yeah.
I never had that nightmare. People have those dreams about, walking around somewhere naked or,
Oh, I had that when I was a kid, showing up at school naked. Terrifying. But not as an adult, fortunately. It was a horrible dream.
Yeah, it's funny. Have you ever been to a nude beach or, nude something?
Yeah, not fun.
It's never the people you want to see. Like, fuck. First time I ever went, I was like, all right, I'm finally going to a nude beach. Here we go. It's like, oh, shit,
Not coming back here.
Sometimes you can't tell who's a man and who's a woman. It's all kind of mushed up and terrible. Anyways. So there's lots of fears, including being naked and looking mushed up and terrible. That stop people. Another one that I love is the fear of winning. We all have a fear of losing, but the truth is, it can be a real mind fuck to have, a big part or all of your dreams come true. And, so there's also the fear of winning. But, no matter what, you got to get in the game. And there's something I've been thinking about a lot lately, which is that courage is the ability to manufacture action out of fear. If you think about the word courage, one of my favorite expressions for a long time is it takes courage to be legendary.
Yep.
And there can't be any courage without fear. So you just got to have that courage to get in the game. And that's what we did with our podcast. And most importantly, what we're hoping to do is create a platform for people to talk about designing, creating, and ultimately dominating in their personal life, as a personal category king, if you will, and in their professional life. How do we build a legendary business? And so this concept of, hey, you just got to get in the game and you got to play. And, I'm reminded of an old buddy of mine, Jay Larson, who is now the CEO of a software company called Burst. I remember years ago, he was up for a promotion. We worked together. He was up for a promotion, and we were interviewing some outside folks and him as an internal candidate. And I remember saying to him, how do you think you stack up, and why do you think that you should get this job versus external candidates? And by the way, Jay, I was always for you back then. And he said to me, Chris, I just am going to fucking outwork all those guys. Like, it's just that I just fucking outwork them, And part of it is just that. It's just getting in the game and really going for it. And the big one, our tagline, or at least our current tagline for the show is, you can't be a legend without being a loser. Right? Every legend's a loser. And of course, we learn so much more from the losses than the wins. I saw this great quote recently. Robert Ingersoll said, "The greatest test of courage on earth is to bear defeat without losing heart." So hopefully we can be a sense of inspiration, education, meditation, ideation, deconfibulation, carbidingulation, probably
that one. Don't forget that one.
For people who are looking to get inspired. So speaking about getting inspired, who's our guest today, Colin?
Well, I'm very excited to share with everyone that our special guest for today is Dushka Zapata, who is a very, very well-known writer on Quora and a personal friend of yours.
Yeah, I met Dushka well over a decade ago. I was the head of marketing of a company called Mercury, and we got into a tremendous amount of trouble. We were being investigated by the Securities and Exchange Commission. Always a fun thing to do in your pathway to a legendary career. We got delisted by NASDAQ, and just a bunch of horrible shit was going on. And so at that point, you need real communications help. You need to be able to communicate transparently and clearly to your shareholders, your employees, your partners, and all that stuff about what's going on, what you're doing, and so forth. And ultimately, you want to try to come back, which in our case at Mercury, we did. And nobody would touch us. We were just fucking nuclear waste. And Dushka at the time was running PR for, I'm not sure if it's Ogilvy or Edelman. She ran PR for both those companies. I believe they're San Francisco or Silicon Valley offices. Anyway, she was at one of them, and she waltzed in with her magical hair and her mystical capabilities. And was a real calming force in a horrible situation. That's how I met her. And you mentioned that she's a writer on Quora. She's had this real amazing turn in her career. So she's no longer a PR executive. She's a CEO and executive coach in communications and so forth, she's awesome, man. But maybe elucidate a little bit on the writing that she's been doing.
Well, she's had an incredible run on Quora with, it seems like the audience that she has materialized out of thin air because she's such an incredible writer. And by having Quora as a place to express herself without censorship, really, and just talk about whatever it is she wants to share, she has amassed an incredible following of people who love what she has to say. And she's a wonderful woman, and I'm very excited to have her on the show today.
Yeah, and you can't be a legend unless you're happy, I don't think. And so Dushka's first book is called How to Be Ferociously Happy. And her second book is called Amateur, because she writes everything for free. She doesn't get paid for any of this stuff. And all of her writing is available, or I think the vast majority of it is available on Quora and other places, or blog and so forth, for free. And yes, she sells her books. So she's also a category designer, in that she's created this new category of writer that you could think of as an amateur social writer, and that she's on these social platforms. And she considers herself an amateur. She talks about that in our dialogue, which is very cool. And, most writers, their goal is to get paid to write. And that, as you're about to find out, is not Dushka's goal. So go ahead.
I would like to know, I'd like you to share how many followers she has on Quora.
Oh, yeah, let me get the number. We looked at just before we came on the air here, friends. Because I wanted the number to be as accurate as possible when this goes live. So right now, she's a top writer on Quora. She has 67,000 followers.
Incredible.
And to put that into context, Hillary Rodham Clinton has 45,000 followers. And here's the stunning thing. Her work has been read or viewed 57 million times on Quora.
Incredible.
And so when we say she's created a new category of writer, she really has. And people are also dying to hear from her. She hides behind the keyboard because she writes so much.
Wasn't there a question that someone asked? What does Dushka's voice sound like?
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure I answered the question. It's I didn't answer it, I meant to answer it. But you're going to find out for real. All right. Well, without further ado, there we go. Without further ado, maybe I should, scotch during the podcast, maybe it'll make a difference. So without any further ado, the lovely, the talented, the absolutely prolific, and of course, legendary Dushka Zapata. All right. Well, I am so excited, Dushka Zapata, to welcome you to Legends and Losers. How are you?
It is really, really awesome to be here.
It is such an honor for both me and Colin to have you as one of our initial guests. You were a get that we wanted from the minute we started talking about doing this podcast.
And I am so excited that you're doing a podcast. It's a good day.
Well, thank you. I vacillated for the better part of 2 years. But
I know you did. I was there.
Yeah, well, you pushed me hard to do it, and I appreciate it. I wasn't sure, and you helped get me sure.
For what it's worth, I was always sure.
Well, that means I should probably listen to you earlier than I do or did on this one. So, Dushka, let's take a step back and talk a little bit about your life and explain to people kind of who you are. My understanding of you, folks, we've known each other for the better part of 15 years, and you grew up in Mexico. And your dad was a well-known diplomat, and that led to an interesting early life that we want to hear about. And ultimately, you made
in ways you would not imagine. Yes.
Yes. Well, we like things that are unimaginable.
This is unimaginable.
And your father's quite the legend. I understand he's also a Scotch drinker.
He's a Scotch drinker. Well, he died 2 years ago. As you know, and
I do know. Yes.
Scotch, and he was legendary, and he was a womanizer, and he definitely lived life to the fullest.
Well, in honor of your dad today, I am drinking some whiskey. So
He would be extremely happy with that.
And so you grow up, you have this amazing life as a young girl and as a child and a kid and growing up in Mexico. And ultimately you land in Northern California, in Silicon Valley, in San Francisco. And you make your way to the top in the PR and communications world. You end up running communications agencies. That's where we met. You actually saved my ass in a corporate communications crisis. And it's a whole
those were exciting times for sure.
Talk about being on the precipice of being a loser. You saved Mercury from being a loser. And you came in and helped us as a PR communications executive when almost nobody else would touch us. We were nuclear waste at the time. And now you have this whole new life. You are an executive coach, and you coach senior folks on how to present and communicate and be more effective in that regard. And your life has taken a very interesting turn over the last couple of years as a writer.
It really has. If you don't mind, I want to just sort of build on my dad and his story, because I think
tell us.
That's really where my story starts. So my dad was incredible. He was an amazing man, and he was incredibly interesting. And he was, I like to say that they don't make them like that anymore. So he told me all my life that he was going to write a book of his life. He was like, one day when I'm old and rickety, I'm going to write my memoirs. And he was successful and powerful and famous and outrageous and frequently inappropriate and
all the things I love.
Yeah, he was incredibly imperfect and flawed and amazing and the best dad in the world. So anyway, he developed early onset dementia. And he just, at first it was mostly short-term memory. So he couldn't remember like a conversation that had happened a couple of minutes before. But memory, it is just very strange. And short-term memory is very strange in that it is it is how we keep order of things. So if you have no short-term memory, you don't really know if when you wake up in the morning, you're going to see your parents or your kids. Like you lose the order of your brain.
Yeah.
So he was obviously unable to write his memoirs.
Did you, Dushka, by any chance, have you seen a movie called Memento?
I have. It's so interesting.
Did that movie speak to you?
It did. When I saw that movie, it was like way before my dad got sick.
Okay.
But here is what I think the movie does not portray clearly, because it's so interesting that you bring that up.
So why don't we tell people what the movie's about if they haven't seen it? What's a 2-second version of Memento?
So a 2-second version of the movie is a movie that you see, like the man perceives time. So the movie is told backwards, and the man has no short-term memory. And you have to watch the sequence of events to understand what happens. And a lot of the sequence of events has to do with him getting tattoos.
Yeah, and he gets those tattoos to try to remind himself, because every day he wakes up and he doesn't know, he doesn't have any new memories, and he's got to figure out who he is and what he's doing every day.
Exactly. But what I think is sort of not accurate in the movie is that when so someone sometime described dementia to me like this. So we all forget our keys. But when you have your keys in your hand and you look at your hand and you look at the keys and you can't put together what they're for, that's dementia.
Now, in my case, I can walk around the house with my keys in my hand asking, where the fuck are the keys? What's that called?
That is also just supreme levels of distraction.
Yeah. Okay.
And forgetfulness. But forgetfulness is not dementia.
But your dad would look at the keys and not know what to do with them once he realized he had them.
Yeah, or like Memento, he would make notes for himself, and then he would not be able to make any sense of them. So he basically lost everything.
Yeah. And how old was he, Dushka, when that started?
Because dementia is in many ways an exacerbation of your personality. So if you start becoming unruly and swearing a lot, and it's part of dementia, it'll be hard to make a distinction between you and your dementia. And that's kind of what happened with my dad. He was just forgetful and distracted, and his attention was everywhere, and we don't really know exactly when it began. But I'm going to guess that he was maybe in his mid-60s.
Okay.
So anyway, the point of the story is that he never got around to writing the book. And So flash forward to me being on a bus going on my way to work. And I realized that there's two types of procrastination. One that we all know well, which is when you leave for later the things that you don't want to do. And the other sneakier, more terrifying type of procrastination, which is when you leave for later what you want to do the most. And I think we all leave for later what we want to do the most. And I think that part of the reason we do it, and part of the reason it's sneaky, is because we disguise it as responsibility. So it goes like this. I want to write, but I can't because I have to do the laundry. And I'm going to write, but I don't have time today because I have to go to the supermarket.
Right.
And you literally, your life gets away from you. So I had always written, and I was always interested in writing, but the time was never now. It was always like just this gig and just this job and just this.
And you were busy, right? I mean, you were the head of one of the top PR agencies in Silicon Valley.
I was, when I met you, I was working at Edelman. I was co-running an office, and then shortly after I was running the office for Ogilvy in San Francisco, and there was so much to do and companies that needed rescuing and people that didn't really know how to define themselves or how to position themselves against the competition, and I loved it. It was, I would never be able to say that I was doing something I didn't want to do.
Right,
but
of course.
Other things I wanted to do too, and the right time to do them never came. So it would always be later. And I think that's so dangerous because it's a little bit like wanting to do a podcast and being like, someday I want to do a podcast. And it's like, when is going to be the right time? And so that's when I decided that leaving PR didn't mean I was leaving it forever. It didn't mean it was going to die. It just meant that I was going to step away. And I decided to just spend a little bit more time doing other things that I just never felt I had time for. And specifically, I wanted to write.
No, but you had been writing.
Yeah, I think I've always written. I just have never really given it priority. It's never been a priority. So I was like, for example, I don't want to write. I want to write a book. I don't want to write in snippets of time while I'm waiting for the bus. I want to sit down in the morning and get a cup of coffee and sit in my living room table and write. And I hadn't done that. And it just hit me. It really hit me like a lightning bolt one morning that the time would never be now unless I said so. And I was just like, it's now. And I wrote an email to my boss and I resigned. And I said, I'm not in a rush. I don't want to leave you in a difficult position, but I have other things to do and I have to get to them because I don't want to run out of time. And I think we have less time than we think.
We have less time than we think. Yeah. It's interesting. I got an email last night from my mom, Jackie, and
Jackie.
Isn't she fun? She loves you too. She very much wants an autographed copy of both your books.
I'm happy to do that.
She's got them, and it's somewhere in the reading process. I'm not sure where, but she said, we have to figure out how I get these books autographed.
I would love to do that.
Because she has fallen in love with you.
I adore her. I think she's phenomenal. You're lucky.
Yes, I am. Very, very lucky.
Right there.
Loving parents. Whew.
Yes.
And so I got this email from Jackie last night, one of her best friends, a guy that I remember incredibly fondly as a little boy with both my sister and I around Christmas time and just having him around. He was a great individual, and he just died. And actually, he didn't just die. We just found out he had died. He's actually died a little bit ago. And I asked her what that was like for her because he meant so much to her. And she said it's challenging because
absolutely
she's in her 70s, and she said so many of my classmates are dying.
Absolutely. I feel I'm not in my 70s, I'm in my 40s, and so many of my friends have died. Like we don't have time. And I know that this sounds horribly cliche, but it's like we have one life. Like, what are the things that we want to do? And the things that interested me, I wanted to get certified to be a yoga teacher, and I wanted to write books. I wrote 2 books last year, and it has more to do with who I am and like what I want to leave behind. And it's less about vanity and more about I have things to say. I want to say them, and I don't want to run out of time.
Yes. And if you think about your path as a writer, I shared some of the statistics off the top, but just to underscore them, right? As of right now, 57 million views of your work on Quora alone, never mind elsewhere.
Yeah.
And for years you wrote and you blogged and so forth, and I don't mean this in a shitty way at all, but in relative obscurity.
Absolutely. People often ask me, would you write even if you had no upvotes, no feedback, no views? And my answer is I wrote for 10 years with no attention at all. I had a blog and I wasn't really giving it the time that it deserved. I really am not, this is genuinely true. I'm really not, I'm not particularly interested or prone to self-promotion. And I just left it there. And I was like, if it's good, this is something that you talk about in your book, right? And I was like, if it's good, if the quality of writing is good, it will survive on its own. Right. And it lived in obscurity. And then,
but I hate to interrupt you, but your writing is fucking magical, right?
Thank you.
Take people on this incredible journey, and at the end of it, people learn something, and it's wonderful. But not that you were a loser, but nobody was paying any attention.
Absolutely. And you know what? I think all winners are losers. And I mean, no one wins all the time. And I think that being a writer and not having anyone read what you write, I mean, I didn't mind. The part that I love is the writing, not necessarily the rest.
And so all those years you were writing in relative obscurity compared to 57 million views today and 66,000 followers. And I mean, you're a full-on digital amateur social writer celebrity now. I mean, I answer questions on Quora about you all the time, and people want to know, what does Dushka Zapata eat for breakfast, and which, did she put her pants on left leg first? And I mean, people are just obsessed with learning everything. I think there's a question out there that says, what does Dushka's voice sound like? Is that what I remember? And so for everybody who wants to know what Dushka's voice sounds like, here we are.
Right here, yes.
and so for you to go from writing for love and your passion and wanting to express yourself, but in relative obscurity for really a very many years, to now being, a digital celebrity, walk us through some of that.
Well, I'll tell you, I'm going to answer the question in like what it makes me feel. And then if you meant something else by your question, feel free to re-ask me. But for me, it's been, what I do for a living is I help people articulate why they do what they do, what they're doing and how, but also why. Because if you have no why, it's very difficult to have an identity. Like, why are you getting up in the morning? Why are you doing a podcast? Why are you doing your job? Why are you being a public speaker? Whatever. And I love writing so much that I could do it without anyone ever seeing it, because it's what I love. But I think that what happened in the course of me writing and getting a reaction from it is that I realized that I also live for connection. I think that saying something that makes a difference in someone's life and learning something that I think, learning some kind of life skill that I think I didn't really know. I'm like, why didn't anyone tell me this? Like, whatever that is. And sharing that and having people say, you changed my life. That's very important to me. And I think that I think Quora has given me two things that define me. And one is my writing, but the other is the connections that I make. And I think
so that's interesting. So for almost a decade, or you tell us how long, as you're writing your blog and so forth, in relative obscurity, you continue to write because it's an expression of who you are.
Yes.
And so as you've continued to write now on Quora and in other places, and you've got 2 books out and everybody wants a piece of you and all that stuff, when you think about writing for yourself, and now you have this huge reaction to everything you write pretty much daily in the digital world, what's it been like to go from, I'm writing because it's part of who I am, I'm expressing myself, and some people are noticing, but in general not so much, to holy shit, when you write something now, within really, because I watch it happen on Quora, within minutes of you posting, in many cases there are thousands and many thousands in some cases of people who see that within minutes or certainly hours of your post. And so the world is responding to you in a way that it never did before. So what's it like to go from writing for yourself as a part of who you are to now having this audience and feeling that connection and communication?
So I'll tell you what it's like now. And the real answer is for me, it makes no difference. And I'll tell you why. I'm old enough to know that the world is a roller coaster, and that people tell you that you're amazing one day, and really at the flick of a switch, they tell you that you're terrible and that you suck. And it's a really exhausting roller coaster to ride, and it's just better when you get off. So if someone tells me that I suck, I nod and I'm like, I'll take from that what I need to learn. And if someone tells me that I'm amazing, I'm like, thank you. But neither one makes a big difference. What I want is to write. So if what I write is useful to you and it helps you with your life, that makes me happy. But if what I write you're not even reading, I write because I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's an amazing thing. And so how did you create this new category of writer? And just so everybody is clear, what makes Dushka extraordinary is not just that she's a talented writer, she is, but she made her place in the world, and she leveraged a new social platform in Quora and now other places. But she writes for free. And she has 2 books out, How to Be Ferociously Happy, her first book. I just love that title.
Thank you.
And your second book's called Amateur.
Yeah.
And you call yourself an amateur social writer. And the interesting thing about your books is most writers get paid to write. That's sort of the goal. Holy shit, somebody paid me to write. Everything that is in your book is available for free digitally.
That's right.
And so you've created this new category by harnessing the power of the internet, but you're a writer who gives your work away free. Tell us about that.
Well, let me tell you why the book is called Amateur and why I call myself an amateur writer, because it's the same answer. And the answer is amateur. I love the word because people think it's someone who's not an expert. And the root of the word, the Latin origin of the word is amatore, which means lover.
Could you just say that word for us a couple more times, please, Dushka?
Amatore, which means...
I wonder, could I get that as a ringtone?
Oh, Christopher. Anyway, the word means lover, and it's someone who does something for love rather than money. And I think that defines me. I have never been able to do something because I'm getting paid. I do it because I love it. I think getting paid is an amazing fringe benefit, but it just can't be what motivates me. And so the book is called Amateur for that reason. And also,
it's probably very different for you, but I can't get the folks at Trader Joe's to give me groceries because of my good looks.
that I'm sure you run into a problem like that all the time. But anyway,
yeah, I have a face for radio.
Please, I won't even get into that. The second reason why I like amateur is because there's a Buddhist notion of beginner's mind, which is that when you know something, you tend to close off. Like, oh, I don't need to hear that. I already know. And when you go through the world like a beginner, you're open to everything.
Yes.
And so amateur is also a nod to the notion of beginner's mind.
It's interesting you say that too, Dushka. In martial arts, the exact same principle. There's a mantra you hear all the time in the martial arts world that says, white belt for life.
That's amazing.
That's the mindset.
That is exactly what it is. And I think that to tie that book with my first book, How to Be Ferociously Happy, I think one of the ingredients of happiness is to, set your ego aside and just be a beginner, like live your life with wonder. So I think that is why that concept is so important to me.
Yeah. And a lot of people they desperately want what you've achieved, whether they're writers or artists or whatever it is, which is to be acknowledged and acclaimed for your art and your passion. And yet you did it for so long without that. And you say today, even though you have it like over the top, that part of it still doesn't matter to you.
I mean, I think saying it doesn't matter is a little bit of a stretch. But I think the more precise way to put it is, I don't let it affect me. I think that we are a legend to the people who love us, and the rest is just a mirage. It doesn't really exist.
Have you read Richard Bach's book Illusions?
No, but I can tell you pretty much anything beyond the love that the people have for you in your life, everything else is an illusion.
Yeah, well, the premise of the book is that the whole thing's an illusion.
I would believe that too.
And one of the reasons we wanted to name the show Legends and Losers is to the point you made a few moments ago, you can go from legend to loser really, really fast.
Oh, please, you can be both at the same time.
Yeah.
You can be legend and a loser.
Yeah. And if you're invested, particularly in the legend part,
yeah.
and then you get whiplash back to loser. It can happen very fucking quickly.
And if you're too scared to be a loser, you'll never be a legend. You know, nothing paralyzes you like trying to get things perfect.
Yeah. It's so amazing to me that you have found this magical place, that you have really found is probably the wrong word. You've made this magical place for yourself. And you're working really hard to keep that beginner's mindset, that white belt for life, in spite of really what's got to be a dizzying level of success in this new world.
I'm very fortunate, and nothing makes me happier than someone posting a comment saying my life is better because I read what you write. Like it's amazing. I feel it makes me happy.
And so what advice would you have for people who are having a similar experience to the one you had for so long, which is you're exercising your passion, so to speak, and yet the world isn't really responding. And one day you manage to connect some dots, and the social world shows up, and ultimately Quora shows up, and the platform. There's a great line in the Richard Bach book that says, "When the student is ready, the teacher will appear." And not that Quora's been a teacher, but you were perfecting your craft for so long, and then all of a sudden the seas parted, the social digital world emerges, Quora as a platform emerges, and somehow your incredible unique talent and that platform connect, and bow. And so what advice would you have for people who really do want to be ferociously happy and do category design in their own life? You are a category king of a category you created by yourself. There's no question about it. And for all of those people out there who are trying to do the same thing in their own personal lives, what would you share with them for that?
So I'll say two things. The first is do things for the right reasons. In other words, don't go out chasing external validation. External validation is a fickle thing. So do things for the right reasons. And the second is, and this is something I learned in yoga, but also with writing, practice and everything will come. Just practice. Practice is so powerful. I was in a yoga class once and I saw a pose. It was a headstand. And I was like, that defies gravity. Like, I don't think I will ever be able to do that. And the difference between me not being able to do it and thinking that it defied gravity and me being able to do it was just trying to do it every day. Oh, and by the way, being a loser every single day until I finally could do it. So the difference, what lies between you and pretty much anything you want is practice. It's incredible to me.
And why do you think more people don't practice the thing or things they're passionate about on a more regular basis?
I think because they confuse practicing with losing.
Say more about that.
Well, I go in and I try to do a headstand and I can't, and I'm like, I'm a loser. Why can't I do this? And I get frustrated and I don't want to do it anymore. So to have the stamina to show up every day to keep trying and to realize that an attempt at something and failing at it is part of practice and not being a loser, I think is what it takes. You just need to get your ego out of the way and say, I'm going to try again. Same with a startup. I'm going to go and I'm going to found a company and I'm going to do something that I believe in for reasons that I believe in, and I'm going to try again and again until I succeed, whatever your definition of success is.
It's interesting we're talking about this. For years and years, I heard, the reward is the journey. It's about the journey, not the destination. And every time I heard that, I wanted to fucking punch somebody in the face, because I always tend to hear, I heard that at places in my life where the journey, whatever the fuck that's supposed to be,
painful, yeah,
was incredibly painful and hard, and like, when's this going to end? And I can't make the rent, or whatever it is, right? And it's like, no, if the journey is the reward, like, fuck you, right?
Yeah.
And so that was my relationship with that sort of saying for a long time. And so I think, at least for me, there was a big distinction between struggle that was kind of just fuck struggle.
Yeah.
And pursuing something that you're passionate about, even if you suck at it.
Yeah, and I think in both places, you can pinpoint where you were learning the most. When you're like in your room and it's dark and you're crying and you have like this moment of, I don't want to do this anymore, and all of those things, you are learning and you are showing courage, and you're showing defeat, and you're showing yourself who you are. I think any form of struggle is pretty uncomfortable, but it's where the lesson is. I hate to say it because it sounds like a platitude, but it's just true.
Yeah, it's interesting. For me in business, I had no choice. And I know this sounds ridiculous, but it was calling me. It had me by the throat. I couldn't. My options were manual labor, shave old guys' balls as an orderly, or really, or hello, Mr. Johnson, I'm here to shave you. But so that was option A, and option B was start a company, and I was obsessed with it. I was fascinated by entrepreneurs, and even before I started, when I was in my teenage years, reading business books and Business Week and Fortune and those magazines at the time, and these icons on the cover was just fascinating to me. And so I had to, and every time I failed and failed over and over and over again, I just sort of had to. It was not. I never thought about not doing it, even when I fucking hated it so much.
There's a part of us that no one sees but us. So there's a very secret Christopher that no one knows about but Christopher. No one. There's like all of these very deep secrets. Like, for example, I know when I'm not trying my hardest. You would never tell, but I know. Right? And I think that there's a Christopher that says, I'm obsessed with this because everyone tells me that I can't, but I know I can. Right. I know it. And so listening to that voice when you're like in the arms of defeat, right? And listening to that voice that says, get up, you can do it. I think that is what you learn in the struggle, which is when you're down and out and you still believe that you can do it, you probably can. But you have to trip a lot, and to use the metaphor of the headstand, you have to hurt your neck and fall. I mean, don't try it at home. You know what I mean? Like you have to.
Dushka told me I had to try a headstand immediately.
Maybe don't do that.
Yeah. So, Dushka, one of the things that I know everybody would love is they would love to hear you read something for us.
I love reading what I write, and I have to say that it's going to sound like you and I agreed on what I was going to write before this conversation, so I want to tell everyone that you don't know what I'm going to read. And it sounds funny because it's quite aligned with what we have been talking about.
And just before you go, Dushka, when Dushka and I were talking about having her come on Legends and Losers, she said, well, what do you want me to do? And I said, well, Dushka, you're a legendary writer. I think people would like you to do what they like legendary writers to do, which is read them something. And I absolutely have no idea what you're going to read, but I can't wait to hear it.
But all right, here it goes. So the question, I write on Quora, so a lot of what I write is answers to questions.
Of course.
The question is, how do you handle criticism? And so here's my answer. When I was about 14 years old, I participated in a story writing contest organized by my school, and I won. When the writer was announced and I went up on stage to receive my writing trophy, what made me happiest was that people would be proud of me. Instead, they were quite cruel and said mean things, and it took me completely by surprise. My heart was broken. When my dad came into my room to congratulate me, I was crying. I told him I would never write again. I vowed I would never participate in another contest. Dushka, he said, there are two types of people in the world. The ones that sit on the sidelines doing nothing other than finding fault with what the participants do. And the participants. Being a participant means having passion, being involved, taking risks, being vulnerable, being exposed and being criticized. The more you participate, the more you live. And the more you are target for criticism. Participate anyway. When someone is particularly critical, take a good look at them. Identify them. Is that a doer or a sideliner? When doers provide feedback, they may have a point. Sideliners don't have a say. Don't listen to them. They don't count. Then he walked me over to his library and reached to the wall behind his desk. He took a framed quote off the wall. Here, he said. Dushka, he kissed my forehead. I never again want to hear you aiming to be a timid soul. This is the quote he gave me. It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming, but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows the great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, but who at worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who will never know neither victory nor defeat. Theodore Roosevelt.
That's fucking legendary.
That's legendary. So let's not be timid souls.
The whole post is legendary. Now, the first thing that pops to mind when I hear you read that about timid souls and the words of your dad, and not that these two things are necessarily connected, but I know you write about this a lot. You're an introvert.
I am an introvert.
So tell us a little bit about timid and introvert and why those two things are not necessarily connected.
Absolutely. So I think that the definition of introvert came along with Myers-Briggs, this sort of like way to categorize a personality.
The four letters, the INFI, FART, DOG, IUD, all that, right?
That's right. And I don't necessarily subscribe to their theories and their letters, but I think that introverted is quite interesting. And it basically means, where do you get your energy? So if you are spending the entire day in meetings and with other people, and at the end of the day you say, I just want to have dinner with friends, I just want to like relax with people, that would make you an extrovert. An introvert recharges by spending time alone. So I'm a very social introvert. I love being out with people, and I'm chatty and I'm exuberant in terms of my personality. But when I'm tired and I'm done, I just can't be around people. I'm out. And I think that is the difference. So I don't think I've ever felt a iota of shyness in my life. I don't think I've ever been like a timid person.
Yep.
But I do recharge by being alone.
Yeah, and that's not necessarily true for an extrovert, although as an extrovert, I can tell you, I really relate to what you're talking about. I generally get energy by being with people as opposed to without people. And if I'm left alone too long, that's probably not a great thing for me.
I can see that.
But absolutely, I relate to what you're saying. And I think other extroverts tuning in will relate to that as well. There are times where you're just like, hey, I need to kind of crawl into my cave.
I think that what I write about a lot is that I have a struggle, because when I go from social to I'm done, I switch off without a lot of notice. So all of a sudden I'm like, I need to go. And through the years, it was just really hard for me to explain to someone, I don't want to go to your party, or I don't want to go to that concert.
Right.
I don't want to do that sleepover, like all of these super extroverted things, like, 10 days in a concert. To me, those kinds of things sound like hell on earth.
Yes.
So recognizing that and just basically accepting who you are is really, really important.
And it's hard to say no to that shit. I've had this happen for me in my life over the last 10 years. I'm a person who used to travel, between 200,000 and 400,000 miles a year on a plane for, the better part of 20 years. And I've really found home. I love living here in Santa Cruz, California. And I love the community here and the ocean and all of it. And so the combination of those things means I don't want to go anywhere, really. Yeah. And I get invited to a lot of stuff. I get on the business side, I get invited to speak and do all this stuff. Of course, I do some of it. And friends are always inviting me to fly here, there, and everywhere. And of course, I do some of it. But in general, I don't really want to go.
You know what else? I think that it's really interesting to think about the definition of fun. And if I don't want to go anywhere, and I don't want to go to a party, and I don't want to go to the bar, and I don't want to go to the concert, like God forbid that maybe I'm not fun. And you learn that, fun is relative. It depends on your definition. So for me, like on New Year's, I spent it with my brother and his wife and boyfriend, and the four of us were having dinner at my brother's house, and we hugged at midnight, and that was that. And to me, that was the perfect New Year's. And the forced fun and like yelling in a room and drinking a lot of champagne just doesn't sound at all to me like something that I want to do. And I think just accepting who you are instead of trying to force yourself into, going to a party you don't want to go to. And now that I've accepted who I am and I'm happier with just myself and what I like and just more, I understand it better. I actually tell friends, I can't come to your party because I'm going to sit home and look out the window. And they're like, okay. So now they understand me.
I have now gotten to a place where I just tell people the truth.
Yeah, me too. It's a great place to be.
I just want to stay home and hopefully get a good surf in and play with my hens and my wife and, hang out with my buddies and do what I do. And that's really what I want to do. I don't want to get on a plane and fly there and do that other thing.
That's right. And I'm going to write while boyfriend cooks and then he feeds me.
I love that you call him boyfriend.
Yeah.
Does he get tired of being boyfriend, or does he like being boyfriend?
He loves being boyfriend.
He loves being
Also.
boyfriend. It's turned into a name, right?
It has. I always used it with a capital B. And I actually wrote a post about why I call him that. I'll read it to you sometime.
I remember it. I wrote it. I read it. It was quite a while ago. I remember there was something about that you know, he's not your husband, you're not married, but like boyfriend is a real shitty term because it sounds like you're 14. And
that's right.
Right? I'm remembering right?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly
so
right.
How did you make peace with boyfriend when, you know, one of the reasons that Carrie, my wife, told me I had to marry her was, well, first of all, she told me I was never going to do any better. That was kind of the primary one. But one of them was like, she didn't like, you know, if we were somewhere, and, oh, this is my girlfriend. She said the world hears wife way different than girlfriend, and I don't want to be your fucking girlfriend, so make me your fucking wife. And so tell us how you get to boyfriend as the moniker.
I think I eliminated everything else. I tried Stud Muffin, and he didn't like that.
He didn't like it?
No, I tried Bunny. He didn't like that.
He didn't like Bunny? I like Bunny a lot. He doesn't look like a bunny to me, but...
Yeah, I was going to say, he's too gruff to be a bunny. But I tried Lover, and that kind of scared people.
Lovers, I've always thought Lover's weird. I don't know, have you ever seen, there's a Saturday Night Live sketch.
Yeah.
Guess who's in it now, where they use the term lover, and it just, I don't know, it's like, this is my love.
It sounds illicit. And it also sounds a little bit like too much. It's like, I don't really need to know what you guys do.
Yeah, like, now we're like, fuck.
Yeah, I tried Baby. That didn't work either. I don't know. Boyfriend kind of suits him.
Yeah, and he likes it.
I think so.
Yeah, and the cool thing for him about being boyfriend, because you write about your relationship so much, and he's in so many of your stories, is he's an anonymous celebrity because of you.
I think he whenever I don't know, it's just, I write a lot about like his reaction to things or his reaction to, you know, things people comment or whatever. I just think he takes everything in stride. He's very laid back.
Yeah.
He's very laid back to my high degrees of stress. The other day I was at home and I was like, you know, life is so complex and it's so unpredictable, and like, you know, who knows what's going to happen? Do you really think we're going to grow old together? He turned around and he went, Dushka, we're already old.
Well, I hope he's not right, because you and I are about the same age. And I hope I got at least another 50 years.
I'm not counting on that. I'm gonna assume that I don't have that much time, because I don't think we have that much time. I just don't really think so. I also think whenever the time ends, however long it is, it just comes too fast. My dad used to like walk around the house. He had dementia, but he had moments of great lucidity, and he would say, I can't believe I'm done. Like, when did this happen? It was just so quick. So I saw the tone that he said that with. He was just astounded at how fast it all went. And when he had dementia, he got diagnosed with cancer. So he was more, it was more finite. Like, the cancer was more finite.
Yeah.
He was like, I ran out of time, and he knew it.
I ran out of time. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that was also very true for, I lost my stepmother when she was 65-ish.
Yeah.
Mid-60s for sure. And she was married to my dad. Well, obviously, I guess, duh. And Nellie ran out of time. She was not done.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, there's a great line in the Jay-Z song, Forever Young. The line is, when the director yells, cut, I'll be fine. Forever Young.
That's awesome.
And for some reason, I've thought about that a lot in the last 6 months or so. And I think I'm there. You know, now, when you face it, it's different, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But I feel like I'm there. When the director goes cut, I'll be fine.
I know what you mean, because I feel the same way, but I don't know. I would like to do a little bit more things. I have another book coming.
Yeah. What can you tell us what the title of your new book is?
I don't know yet. I'm thinking about it.
Can you tell us when it's coming out?
Yes, it's coming out in May.
And I mean, we hope to have you back a lot, but will you come back in May and tell us about your new book?
Absolutely. I hope to come back before then.
Oh, I'd like you to come back a lot more often, or I don't know, frequently in between now and May.
I think so too.
Dushka, is there anything you'd like to share before we wrap today?
I don't think so. Is there anything else you want to ask me?
What's your hope for 2017?
Peace. Peace. It's there's a lot going on there.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get political, but peace.
Peace.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time in Israel in my life, and Mercury Interactive, a company where I was the CMO, was founded in Israel, and we had, I don't know, plus or minus 3,000 people, and of course many of them were Israeli. We had a huge operation just outside of Tel Aviv, and so I spent a lot of time. And one of the things I love about Hebrew is the word for hello and goodbye. The Greek is shalom,
Mm-hmm.
and there's something legendary about that. So I wish for peace in 2017 and beyond. It is amazing if you think about our world, the things that us human beings are still debating and arguing about.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So I wish for peace too. Dushka Zapata, you are a legend. People can find you on Quora. They can find you on Twitter. You want to tell us your Twitter handle?
It is Dushka Amateur.
Dushka, DUSHKA, amateur.
Yes.
And when you come back, you'll tell us, because Dushka is a nickname, is it not?
Yes, that is such a big, long story. Yes.
So we'll save that story for next time, how you got to be Dushka. But you're like Cher or Oprah or I don't know who.
Please say Madonna.
Madonna.
Yes.
You're just Dushka. You're not Dushka Zapata. You're just Dushka. So thank you. You're a spectacular human being. I am so stoked to have you as one of our very first people on Legends and Losers, and we look forward to having you back many times.
And I'm very happy to be here because you should definitely be behind a microphone.
Bless you, Dushka. We'll speak soon.
Bye.
Peace.
Peace.
Yeah, Dushka.
Yeah, spending time with Dushka. That's
What a treat.
I don't know how to put a finer point on it than that, other than I feel incredibly blessed that we get to spend some time with her, and that she actually said publicly that she'd come back on Legends and Losers. So we hope that inspired you a little bit on your journey from loser to legend, or legend to loser, or wherever you are in that cycle. And I think that's about it. Anything else you want to touch on before we do the outro, Mr. Vincent?
No, I just want to say I'm very glad to be doing this with you. This first episode has been quite a experience getting off the ground, and I'm really glad we're doing it.
Well, Colin, I need to thank you publicly. I mean, without you, I wouldn't be doing this at all. And you pushed me for well over a year to do it. And I got to tell you, doing a podcast has been a lot like doing a startup, hasn't it? Felt like that in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
But interestingly enough, and I don't want to sound too corny, maybe I just have the early stage romance of doing this thing, so I'm excited. But it's like doing a startup, but with none of the hee-haw, or very little of the hee-haw. Let me say it that way.
Just a little upfront hee-haw.
Yeah, there's always going to be some hee-haw, just to keep you honest. But it's been great. It's been fun, and I've been so stoked that so many people want to come on the show, and we have a great lineup.
Yeah, why don't you tell us some of the guests that we have lined up?
Well, we'll probably jinx the whole fucking.
All right.
But suffice it to say, we got some really smart people. We have some incredible entrepreneurs. We have some athletes coming. We're talking to a legendary Olympic athlete right now. Colin and I are huge UFC and martial arts fans, so we've got some fighters, martial artists coming on the show. We've got industry visionaries from the tech space.
An incredible list of people.
Incredible. All the most legendary people and a whole shit ton of losers on the show. All right. So I think with that, we're going to thank you very much for joining Legends and Losers today. And please subscribe to us on iTunes. Give us a legendary review. And even if you think we suck, just pretend we're legendary. And to tell all your friends about Legends and Losers. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, @Legends Losers. Or what's our email address, Colin, if you want to email us directly?
Oh, that's one of my favorite parts about setting this up. So you, with your stroke of brilliance, created this email.
Well, it wasn't me. It was actually the legendary Carrie Costantino.
Oh. So Carrie came up with this awesome email, which is blackhole@legendsandlosers.com. And surprisingly, we will actually answer your black hole emails.
Well, we'll give it a hell of a try. We do want to remind you that all rights are disturbed. This information today has been provided to you solely for informational purposes, and this oddcast is the sole property of Legends and Losers Broadcast Network. We'd like to thank Equity Directory, the
invite-only network of entrepreneurs and startup talent exchanging work for equity.
Yeah. We'd also like to thank HarperCollins' instant classic book, Play Bigger, How Pirates, Dreamers, and Innovators Create and Dominate Markets. Maybe the greatest business book ever written.
Ever.
1185 Design. If it's not designed by 1185, you probably have a shitty brand. The greatest branding agency in Silicon Valley. Paradigm Sport in Santa Cruz, California. Train like it matters. Marshall Amplifiers. Jack Daniels, helping ugly people fornicate for decades. And we'd like to remind you, do not pour hot coffee on your crotch. And who do we have to apologize to? Symantec CEO Greg Clark. Hey, sorry, Greg. We just ran out of time. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Be legendary.